All right, I want to talk about some more exponent rules you might encounter in algebra class. And I like to start by just writing down some numbers like this. If I had 4 to the fourth divided by 4 cubed. So think about 4 to the fourth. What that means is that I had 4 4s multiplied together. And in the denominator, I had 3. Well, 4 divided by 4 is 1. 1. 1, I just have 4 left over. Or, if you'd rather, 4 to the first. Now let's do this with some variables. So up top, I've got 6 x's multiplied together. And on the bottom, I've got 2 more. X divided by x is 1. X divided by x is 1, and I have 4 x's left over to multiply. Now, if I did this, say, well, I have 3, and in the bottom I have 5, divided to 1. I have 2, but they're in the denominator. I don't have anything left in the numerator. Okay? Now, what you will often see is the rule written this way. If I have x to the a over x to the b, and again, remember, exponents are just counting, you'd say, I just subtract to see how many x's are left over. Notice 6 minus 2 is 4. Now notice here, 5 minus 3 is 2, but you also could think 3 minus 5. And let me write that down here because it's going to take us to our next rule. If you did 3 minus 5 and got negative 2, a negative exponent means the opposite of what a regular exponent means. Here's what I mean by that. If you wrote x squared, that means you're multiplying by x twice. But x to the negative second means you are dividing by x twice. It's the opposite. The opposite of multiply is divide. So that is why we have this negative exponent, and that means it's 1 over x squared. Basically, we just put it into the denominator. Okay, which takes us to our next rule, which is negative exponents, but I guess first let me just highlight this. When you are dividing, you simply subtract to see how many multiplications are left. So, negative exponents. A positive means multiply. A negative means divide. So this is like saying divide by 4 3 times. Or even better, we could just write 1 over 4 cubed. Like that. Basically, the negative just puts us into the denominator. So if we had x to the negative fourth, that is the same as 1 over x to the fourth. Okay? Now, on the other hand, if we had 1 over x to the negative third, let's say, it was already negative. Well, think about, this is like saying 1 over x cubed. Now, dividing by a fraction is the same as multiplying by the reciprocal. Remember that from middle school. It's x cubed. So if the negative exponent is already in the denominator, it actually ends up being moved to the numerator. So I guess the simple way to kind of think about negative exponents is it moves you to the opposite part of the fraction. If you had like x to the negative fourth, this is, kind of think about like in the numerator of a fraction, it moves us into the denominator of a fraction. If it was already in the denominator, it moves us to the numerator because we were dividing, which means multiplying by the reciprocal. So let's put these rules together, all of these rules, and solve some kind of bigger problem. Okay, the first thing I would take care of in a situation like this is actually those powers. I always want to get rid of these powers first. So remember, the number, when we have a number like 3, we just do 3 to the third power. So 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. Okay. Next, x squared cubed. So x, 2 times 3, we've got x to the 6th. And y to the 4th cubed becomes y to the 12th. And then we do the same thing in the bottom. So we're going to have x to the 5th. So that becomes x to the 15th. And then finally we've got y squared cubed. So that becomes y to the 6th. Now I'm going to use my subtraction. Okay, 27 is not being divided by anything. But here I'm going to say, well, I've got x to the 6th and x to the 15th. I just do 6 minus 15. And that is -9. And then I do 12 minus 6. So y to the 12th is 12 minus 6 is, so y to the 6th. And the last thing, those negative exponents get moved. Remember, they mean divide in this case. So there we are. There's my answer. Okay. All right, let's do this big one. I've got 2 squared, so 4. X to the -3rd. So again, you're just going to multiply. The rules don't change, so it's going to be x to the -6th. And then we've got y, like to the 1st squared, so y squared. Now, don't forget to do the stuff with the numbers, right? We got 6 squared. 6 times 6 is 36. Then we've got -4. So -4 times 2 would be -8. And then finally, we've got x squared squared, which is x to the 4th. Now, let's move some things around. So 4 over 36, we got to reduce that fraction. That's 1 over 9. And then I'm going to move stuff. So like this negative exponent right here is going to go into the denominator. I just kind of move left to right. So I've got that x to the 6th that went into the denominator. Get the right color here. X to the 6th. And then y squared, which, just gets to stay where it is. So y squared. Then I go into the denominator. I've got this y to the -8th, so a negative exponent moves. So we got y to the +8th. And then that x to the 4th is fine right where it is, like that. And now, let's do our last kind of combining. You've got on the top y squared times y to the 8th. That's y to the 10th. And on the bottom, x to the 6th and x to the 4th is x to the 10th. And there's our answer. These things can be kind of overwhelming. There's a lot of things that are going on. I would urge you to start by just, if there's a power here, deal with that first. Do that. And then if there are negative exponents, move them to the proper spot. And then, combine things after that. Like here we just got to multiply those, so add those exponents. Here we had a little work where we had to actually subtract. And then, do one more pass through. If you end up with some negative exponents, move them appropriately again. Just take it piece by piece. If this video helped you, please like and subscribe for more math help.